The one phrase I see scattered throughout my notes for this script is creative, so expect to hear several synonyms of that phrase as we delve deeper into this essay. The primary influence of Prey couldn't be more evident if the game literally shaved off half of my life, so it doesn't even need to be mentioned. We're wandering around an ugly, alien-infested environment, we start the game with a blunt melee object often used for construction, play the entire game from a first-person perspective with no cutscenes, and set up a sequel that's never coming out. The gameplay of Prey may be heavily inspired by Divided Existence, but it does make several changes to differentiate itself, some good, some bad. First, let's compare the wrench and the crowbar. What I'm about to say will sound stupid, but the crowbar seems much more refined when comparing the two. A sleeker design with more polish to reflect Jordan's scientific nature. Meanwhile, one of the first things we do in Prey is beat two people to death for making remarks at our girlfriend. Tommy is far more thuggish and brutalist than Independent Dude, and the wrench reflects this. It's a less conceivable weapon with thicker edges and more lethality. Although, I'm not sure why they didn't come up with a better sound effect when the crowbar sound is so much more itch-scratching. That's the stuff. Aside from the wrench, the rest of Prey's arsenal is incongruous. The design of these guns is so innovative. They feel as though they're individual organisms in your hands. I'm astonished at how they writhe and twitch in your hands, as if they're just waiting for you to shoot them and they can kill something else. Or maybe they're trying to break free from your grasp because it's hurting them to have to kill their former masters. That's probably the first time since Pokemon that I felt bad for my weapons of murder. Each weapon is also succinct, as every weapon has a primary and secondary fire that fills the role of two stereotypical archetypes of first-person shooters. The starting weapon, the hunter rifle, acts more like a pistol than its title suggests. You have to pull the trigger multiple times to maintain a steady rate of fire. When the left trigger is pressed, it's revealed that this will be our sniper rifle for the rest of the game. As a side note, it's a little awkward that you toggle the scope instead of holding it down, but maybe that was more common these days. I wouldn't know. I was in kindergarten when this game came out. I want to give special attention to the shotgun of Prey, which is maybe the most visionary idea I have ever seen for this iconic weapon type. It's known as the acid launcher. Not only is the primary fire ravaging in close quarters, but it also leaves behind a neon singe on any surface it touches. I'm assuming it does damage over time, but I can't find any evidence for that theory. One of the weapons, the autocannon, may be just a machine gun with a grenade launcher, but how it's acquired is brilliantly productive. During a fight with what is essentially the cyber demon, you run out of ammo due to the boss's immense health pool, and you frantically have to search for more. Your search will lead you to a back room with a small amount of ammo. What's worse is that the boss is now clawing and firing into the hallway, trying to kill you. That's when you notice the terminal. Use it to activate the force field and sever his arm cannon off. Then you can gloriously finish him with his own weapon. That is a gifted way to end the fight. It's dynamic, and it rewards players with a new gun. It's probably worth mentioning the spacecraft you pilot at multiple points during the campaign. Its primary fire feels floaty, which is a problem I have with most of the weapons in the game. Yet it ultimately redeems itself by letting me use a tractor beam as a weapon and drop enemies off balconies, something that will never get old. Although across all the weapons in Prey, my most pressing critique is the 4 different types of grenades. One of them is a typical hand grenade with the beautiful alien design of a crab-like creature that squeaks when it's thrown. My problem is that 3 of the firing types across all weapons are grenades or rocket launchers. There isn't really any difference between these firing methods. I find it a shame that there are repeating archetypes in a game with such an inventive arsenal. Prey's levels and technology are so ingenious for its time that I'm disappointed it doesn't have its one wacky weapon, something to rival the gravity gun from Fraction Survival Dose. The worst part is that they figured out portal technology for this game, and were so close to the answer before it punched them in the face the following year. Moving outside of the combat, let's talk about an idea so dumb I can't believe anyone signed off on it. Death Walk. Instead of game over screens and checkpoints, Death Walk is an ability that, upon death, transports you to a spirit realm and regenerates your health. Were you waiting for a catch? Because there isn't one. Prey 2006 is literally an unlosable game. When you revive, you don't have to start the fight over. Everything you've already killed is dead. With enough time, a dog can pick up a controller with its mouth and beat the game of Prey from start to finish. My only theory as to why the developers would add something so blatantly stupid to this game, something akin to turning on God mode in Bisected Sentience, is that they were really struggling to find ways to justify the main character being Native American and thought this would be a good idea. The other idea they had for making Tommy Native American was Spirit Walk. Spirit Walk is an ability with no practical use inside of combat, as it leaves you completely vulnerable and you only have access to one weapon. Instead, it's a tool used for traversal and puzzle solving. And might I just add that if your game is a linear first-person shooter, there's no point developing entire mechanics around the parts of the game without any first-person shooting? My problem with these two mechanics is that the developers felt like they just had to be there because the game starred a Native American, but why do they feel the need to make mechanics just because of the main character's race? Can't they just be a normal game protagonist that just so happens to be Native American? Colt Vaughn from Deathloop doesn't have any powers that reflect he's black. He's just like anyone else caught in his scenario, and he just so happens to be black. It just feels wrong to make a spectacle of their inclusion with far-fetched gameplay systems, especially when the two ideas they had were so terrible. Prey is a game bursting at the seams with ingenious weapons that feel alive in the player's hands and are exciting to use, even if they lack the oomph that Incomplete Essence's arsenal had. Unfortunately, it's let down by a severely lacking punishment system and too much effort in places that didn't need it. On the other hand, Prey is a game that offers an excellent power fantasy for an unkillable warrior on a quest for vengeance, leading me to wonder why the game was called Prey to begin with.